So, so I have a few approaches and models that are typically used to talk about organizational change. And a lot of them, some of them can be taken to discuss or theorize how we talk about circular economic transition. But a lot of them can't be applied as it is. Like they're not sort of, I would say, standardized genetic models which fits the complexity of what is associated with the circular economy. So an example is X-curve transition, which is sometimes used by transition practitioners or theorists. The orange line there is how you phase out something, and the blue line in this curve is how you basically let something pick up. So if we associate it with a linear and circular economy, you have the linear economy being phased out, and you are building up the circular economy, which has a number of stages of experimenting, accelerating, letting it emerge, institutionalizing, and stabilizing. So these are some of the models that I want to share with you, but I'm not going to detail. Just want to sort of bring into light that there are different concepts we can associate with it. So 5-box model, force field analysis. Once again, there's something driving transition, something opposing transition. There are some places where stakeholders make commitments. So all of this basically discuss that type of perspectives. My way of looking at it is quite simple. I think what we have is something like this. We have something that is designed with a paradigm that we can't sustain for long. And in going forward, we have a problem because our resources are finite. We have other phenomena like climate change affecting us, um, driving change in a lot of the things that we do. With the circular economy, because we talk about resources primarily, um, if we have this, what we need to have is something like this, where we can ride sustainably, um, without being limited by the finiteness of the resources. So in transitioning, what we have to do is something like this. We are basically shifting parts of a old system and replacing it with new things and riding it. So if you think of this way of if you apply this way of thinking, we call this circular wheels or round wheels alternatives. So we have been doing something in a certain way, which is a traditional practice. What we are replacing it with is an alternative, and it's all about basically how we kind of do that. So I just mentioned that we have limited pit stops to do it. We are in a relative level of emergency. So this is something I have I'm writing up on and want to publish, but it basically talks about transition at I would say more at an economy and an industrial level. So you develop alternatives, which could come in the form of alternative products, materials, supply chains, business models. In this situation, all what applies to a circular economy or regenerative economy. By the way, my preferred word for it is regenerative economy, because that is what communicates the true purpose of it. So if you have something which you are introducing as alternatives, making alternatives is one, but then there are a couple of other steps that are involved in deciding whether you want to basically make a choice about it, make a decision about it. So often we compare it with the traditional practice. And when we compare, there's not just the environmental perspective that comes into play. There's the cost perspective, there's the performance perspective. You kind of have a decision which involves sometimes trade-offs with this. So at an economy or an industry level, there's policy and government intervention needed. So there's some level of decision making which are not just commercial performance or cost, rather benefit to society. So that has to be done at a public policy level. Then there's when industries or businesses uptake it, private operators take it, they decide it from the perspective of like cost and benefit in general, or rather cost and savings or cost and revenue. So that's the second sort of layer, making decisions about them. Third one, um, you what we decide to adopt can be a product or a material or a business model or a supply chain, or technology. It is a part of a bigger system. So you got to think of how it fits with the bigger system where it gets integrated to. So operationalizing is about redesigning some of the other aspects of the system so that it can fit in. And of course, redesigning incentives, disincentives, thinking how to create reasons for people to adopt it, in general. And that is also not enough. You got to create the pull, where there's interest in the market to buy this. So introducing new choices of consumption, such as new business models. There's changed behavior that is expected from the market. So there's a bit of there's inducing or catalyzing that also needs to be done. And that's, I think, what we do with generally with circular procurement or other type of procurement for innovation models. So this is, I would say, a high level overview of how would you approach that transition. You develop alternatives, you make decisions about them. There's a process of doing that. You basically facilitate an integral design and think of how do I make reasons for people to adopt it, and then at the same time, how do I make people want this? So that's those are a couple of things that kind of fits into the picture. So that's about the I would say industry level, or rather economy level generalized sort of transition approach. We have a number of circular transition indicators that are available at the moment. There's one done by World Business Council for Sustainable Development. There's one by the European Union, which are available online and can be used. There's something released by Circle Economy. Ellen MacArthur Foundation has Circularitics. So they're at different levels. For example, Circularitics measure organizational transition. And they sometimes look at different perspectives and aspects as well. Probably I mean, I wouldn't do a sort of a comparison or I would say a recommendation of anything. But one thing to note is that some of these transition tools, for example, the one that is there for World Business Council for Sustainable Development, they measure flows, volumes. So when you talk about circular economy, we can't actually talk about it without talking about value, because value is a very integral and an important part of the economy. So value comes from the discussion about value can come from cost, or rather monetary value, but also the value of resources, things like scarcity. So some of the indicators, the general drawback that I see is that there's a heavy reliance or dependence or emphasis on volume, and there's less reliance on value and resource aspect of it. And the other part is that a circular indicator, if you have a indicator telling that it's 5% circular or 3% circular, that doesn't give an idea of the environmental impact at all. So for example, you can create resources to come to an original point where it was used, putting a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. So that needs to be captured in these indicators. Otherwise, they can be very, they are misinterpreted that it's an improvement. So that's something I think we got to be careful of.